This is a moment in which we're working together to get the water flowing, to get resources flowing to our communities. And to do that, communities can do three things to really facilitate that. We can articulate a bold vision for what we want and what we deserve, and a plan that lays out a path to get there. We can then ask, what are the resources that we deserve to implement that vision and that plan, and that's the capital plan. And then think about what infrastructure we need to implement that vision and to use those resources to move things forward. So the things we're really focused on in this learning community together is those three things. That's what's going to help us unlock resources at a bigger scale. And vision is the heart of a community plan. Your community plan is your North Star, and the community vision is the heart of your community plan. The vision is the North Star that guides our power building work. And the vision is the North Star that helps us identify the real solutions to the challenges we face. So vision is sort of central and key to moving things forward in the way that we want and that we need. And it's important to create a plan that reflects the hopes and dreams of the people in our community who are facing the greatest challenges, overcoming the most significant obstacles, so that their wisdom and their experience can be at the heart of that vision and that plan. We are the embodiments of our ancestors' wildest dreams. And so we have to ask ourselves, what are our dreams? What visions do we hold for our grandchildren's grandchildren? And it's that kind of bold imagination that has to be at the heart of the community planning that we do. Sister Saint Angela Davis said recently, we have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world. And you have to do that all the time. So as community stewards, part of our responsibility is to have the courage to dream big and boldly. And what we know, for those of us who do that work, is it can be hard to dream, because we've experienced, and our communities have experienced, centuries of trauma. And so what we find is that the beginning of the dreaming starts as a healing journey. It starts with the healers and the artists and the cultural workers who help our communities come together to tell the truth about what we've experienced, and to unlock our creativity and our bold imagination, so we can imagine something better. Dr. King had a dream of beloved community. Grace Lee Boggs invited us into our radical imagination. Harriet Tubman had the dream that our people would be free, and that we could follow our North Star, follow that drinking gourd to freedom. And we need to know what our community's dreams are. What are our Harriet Tubman dreams? What are our Oscar Romero dreams? What are our Grace Lee Boggs dreams for freedom for our people? And so the Vision Power Solutions team has sort of put together a set of stepping stones, different places that we go along the way to build out our community vision. And it really has to start with this reclaiming the future work. And from there we can go anywhere. But that's really where we have to start. And the important thing about the community planning solution is that different communities are at different places in their community planning journey. We're going to hear from Richmond, from the Our Power Coalition. And some communities have been on this process of articulating a just transition plan for many, many years. And they're working on the fourth or fifth version of their plan and still trying to update it and bring it to life. And other communities, like the community in Memphis, are just at the beginning of their journey. But wherever your community might be, whether you're working on the fifth version of your plan or the first version of your plan, or you're just trying to figure out what a plan is and how to bring it together, wherever you are, you're exactly where you need to be. Because every community deserves to get the resources that it needs to dream, to vision, and for those dreams and visions to become priorities, and those priorities to become projects, and for the resources that are needed to come in to bring those things to life.
The beginnings of a just transition plan has been in the works since the big explosion, actually, of the Chevron refinery in 2012. For us, a lot of the work around environmental justice in Richmond had been focused on fighting the bad, like one part of just transition, until the fire happened at the Chevron refinery in 2012. There came a moment where multiple communities that support EJ work in Richmond were at a place where we're really tired of only saying what we don't want and really need to start focusing and making a plan for what we do want so we can actually offer an alternative. And so a group that actually started by getting together to try to figure out what we wanted to demand of Chevron after that big fire and the impact on our community kind of created a new group using the language and the guidance really of the CJA, which is the Richmond Our Power Coalition. And we began working actually from 2013 forward on creating a platform for just transition in Richmond that looked deeper, that didn't just focus on the impact of extractive industry and energy on our communities, but looked at the principle of extraction in our communities and how it affects across sectors. So we looked at health, we looked at food, we looked at transportation, we looked at energy, we looked at economy and jobs, and we actually created a platform on those different planks that described what for us would be a just transition for Richmond and set the goal that we wanted to move away from dependence upon fossil fuel economy here by actually helping to create the kind of economy that we needed to thrive that wasn't dependent upon extractive industry or extractive labor practices or the criminal injustice system, which is also extractive, but it's extractive of our people. And we started creating projects and objectives that would actually help us realize this just transition plan. So the plan was created over about 3 years, probably from 2013, 2014 to 2018. It's still always a draft. It's always being adjusted as new members get recruited into the Richmond Our Power Coalition. It's a coalition of nonprofit organizations working in Richmond that now it's anchored by Communities for a Better Environment, Asian Pacific Environmental Network, Urban Tilth, and Rich City Rides. And we also have members in Richmond Land, which is an organization that is now working on creating a land trust in Richmond. Cooperation Richmond, which is a cooperative business, worker-owned cooperative business incubator. The Safe Return Project, which is working on supporting individuals returning from incarceration and kind of fighting against injustices in the criminal justice system. And we have supporting organizations too, folks that are not full members, not members, but are definitely allies, like Rise, Kim's on the call, and I Don't Know More, East Bay. So it's really exciting work. There's a lot to talk about. That's my almost not quite 3-minute version. But I would say one last thing. One of the things that we were doing before COVID to try to improve our community planning was we started doing a lot of canvassing, kind of learning from our partners in Buffalo, from Push Buffalo, doing a lot of door knocking. We door knocked, I forget how many houses it was. It was something close to like 1,000 houses, and did surveys, just community surveys. What's impacting your life? What areas do you feel like you really need work? You need the city or government help to improve or change. And we took that and we actually started having what we want. We had our first community assembly where we invited everyone who completed the surveys to come and meet in breakout rooms and breakout groups on the top topics that were indicated in the survey. We wanted to use this community assembly as a means and a method to keep improving and checking in on our just transition plan, and making sure that the things that we have in it are really things that the community really wants to see. Kind of got stopped by COVID, but I know we're going to return to it, this general assembly model, to make sure that we have community voice.
Our primary work is based here in Memphis, and it's called the Southern Shift Initiative. And that work is really born specifically to shift the culture of the economy in the South and center that work on Black communities and other communities of color across the South, but really centered again here in Memphis. Memphis is the home of Robert Church, who is a man who was born as an enslaved person, but became the first Black millionaire in America. And it also is the home of the first Black-owned bank to reach $1 million in assets. But it's also currently the place where 65% Black population has a 40% poverty rate, and almost half the kids who are born in Memphis are born into poverty. So there's something about that cognitive dissonance of there being a time with so much richness and so much resource, and what's happening right now that really activated me. I've been struggling for a lot of years with the question of how to create liberation at this intersection of race, class, and gender. And I really have leaned in mostly to storytelling and cultural strategy, because I really believe that cultural strategy is really fundamental to manifesting our vision for the world. And I think that the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are as individuals, but also who we are as a community, and honestly, who we are as a society as a whole is really dictated. It really dictates what we allow in terms of our interpersonal and institutional spaces and behaviors, policies, practices, all those things. So we don't ever change the story. We're never going to ever get where we want to go, as far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion. But about 3 years ago, I had a little bitty culture shift of my own. And I realized that all the storytelling I was doing, all the work I was doing wasn't going as far as I wanted to. And I realized that in order for us to be able to have the room that we needed to create space for healing and experimentation and dreaming and visioning and joy and creativity and abundance, what we needed in addition to all of those juicy things is really sovereignty over a set of resources that we control by the people who knew each other and who loved each other and understood what was happening in their own communities. And were willing to do the hard work of community building, which is not just about knowing each other, but it's also about willing to learn together and grow together and thrive together. Because like Julie said, some of us don't know even how to thrive together. It's a skill that we don't have. So we started to imagine financial infrastructure that would be strong enough to really hold the weight of the liberation that we were talking about, to that scale of billions and trillions. And we started first by fundraising and purchasing a building called Historic Clayborn Temple to build an anchor for that community and for that work. Historic Clayborn Temple is a really important building because it was the organizing headquarters for the sanitation worker strike in 1968. So if you've ever seen those iconic I Am a Man signs, those signs were made in the basement during that really important moment to highlight the intersection of race and class. And it's also that campaign that brought Martin Luther King to Memphis. And it's where he was working when he was assassinated here, literally 53 years ago to the day yesterday, as we commemorated his assassination here in Memphis on the 4th. I know that not every community has access to a building like Clayborn. It is iconic, once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm not suggesting that everybody go and buy a civil rights icon building, but I am saying that was really important. What was really important for us was to invest in a space. A space is important because, one, it's a really great way to model and attract community investment. And it's a wonderful way to build a strong foundation for the work of building community and building resources and building and practicing skills like sustainability and sacred governance, because you have to figure all those things out when you have to come together in a space. I would suggest choosing a space that already embodies your stories and your values and your vision, or finding a space where all of those ideas and ideals can be imbued by you and the people who you're working with and living with. Choose a space where you can gather together, and one that's accessible and allows for a sense of ownership and belonging, and a place where people can really lean into community. The spaces also needs to be able to expand into not just a space of gathering, but a center for actual power building, where people can really grow infrastructure and really grow the skills and awareness needed to be able to receive and leverage resources at scale. Because like I said at the beginning, I feel like we've all done a whole lot of work of being together, growing together, loving together, telling stories together, but we need to make the leap to be able to actually harness, and leverage financial resources for the things that we believe are important for our folks.